Hello everyone, my name is Diana Vides and today I'm going to talk about Two Pilgrims from the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, and I choose the Knight and the Parson. So in the general prologue, Chaucer introduces the pilgrims who are traveling to Canterbury and describes their appearance, their personality, their behavior, and social position. So I choose the knight and the parson because although they have different roles in society, both are presented as virtuous and admirable characters. So let's start with the knight. So the knight is presented as a distinguished, brave, experienced, and honorable man. And Chaucer tells us that he participated in many battles and traveled to different places and that he fought 15 battles and fought for his faith. So this title shows that he was brave and that he was an experienced warrior. So one of his most important characteristics, even though he is all of that, for me, is his humility. And in lines 70 and 71, Chaucer says, "And though so much distinguished, he was wise in his bearing and modest as a maid." So this quotation shows that despite all his achievements and recognition, the knight is not arrogant. He remains modest and respectful. So Chaucer also says that he has never said a boorish thing to anyone and describe him as a perfect gentle knight. So this shows that he is courteous and as well as brave. So his clothing also gives us information about this character. Chaucer says that he has fine horses, however, he is not dressed in an extravagant way, and his tunic is stained with his armor because of he has just returned from his military service. And I think that this reinforces the idea that he is not concerned about showing off his status or his wealth. And overall, I would describe the knight as brave, honorable, experienced, courteous, and humble. So now let's talk about the parson. So the second pilgrim that I choose is the parson, and unlike the knight, Chaucer focuses less on the parson's appearance and more on his personality, his beliefs, and actions. And the parson is poor, but Chaucer immediately explains that he is spiritually rich. So in lines 488 and 489, Chaucer says about him, "There was and poor the parson to a town, yet he was rich in holy thought and work." So I choose this quotation because it summarizes his character very well. He does not have much material wealth, but he is rich in faith, knowledge, and good actions. So the parson is also learned and devoted to his religion, and he teaches the gospel to his parishioners, but most importantly, he follows what he preaches or what he teaches. So he is generous to poor parishioners and gives them from the church offerings, and even though he is poor, he even offers his own property. So he also visits his parishioners when they are sick or experiencing difficult moments, and even when they live far away. And these actions show that he is compassionate, generous, responsible, and diligent. And another important characteristic is that he is not, he is not seeking for wealth or recognition, and that Chaucer says that he sought no pomp or glory in his dealings. So therefore, I would describe the parson as holy, learned, generous, patient, diligent, humble, and compassionate. So let's compare the two pilgrims now that I have talked about both of them. So the knight and the parsons are different, but they have an important similarity. Both are presented as good examples of their active roles. So the knight represents courage, honor, courtesy, and humility, and the parson represents faith, generosity, compassion, and service. And the knight has social status and recognition, but he remains humble. And the parson is materially poor, but he is spiritually rich. So this shows that Chaucer values the person's character and actions more than wealth and social status. And now let's talk about my favorite pilgrim. I really like them both, but between the two, my favorite pilgrim is the parson. So I prefer him because I admire the fact that he practices what he is teaching to his parishioners. He does not simply talk about being a good person, he demonstrates his beliefs through his own actions. So I also admire his compassion and generosity. He helps his parishioners without seeking wealth or recognition, and he continues doing his responsibilities even when they are difficult. So in conclusion, both the knight and the parson are virtuous characters in my opinion, but they demonstrate their virtues in different ways. And the knight represents courage and humility, while the parson represents faith, generosity, and service. So thank you very much for listening and for your time.